All right, y'all, what's going on? All right, so this is my second video of the day. So I want to talk about First Republic Bank, okay, about what's going on with these things. They're basically called bank runs, all right? This stuff's had been going on, all right, since I know in American history, since what, the late 1800s, when there were things like taxes that were raised, particularly to target people out west with all the gold and all that, okay? And that did affect the banks, but the banks' interests were being raised and so forth. And it caused a panic for people to pull their money out of the banks. Okay, and because of that, the banks didn't have the money for some of those to pay some of those people. Okay, or to pay their own bills, and the banks end up going downhill, and then the banks end up going taking uh, bought by larger banks. Okay, one of them are like J.P. Morgan. This is how J.P. Morgan ended up getting so big. I heard about J.P. Morgan in the late 1800s. That was one of those mega banks or whatever, like those mega companies that came up during that Gilded era. All right, doing stuff like this. Okay, J.P. Morgan's a monster, and we'll get into that there in a second. But the same thing happened again, like a few times during the Great Depression. Excuse me, during then in the 70s, 2008, and now. Okay, what's going on now with these banks and interest rates are being raised and so forth, and a lot of this. I just made the video maybe what a half hour ago, 45 minutes ago, is in cahoots with the debt ceiling being raised. Okay, so the government can be able to pay bills. All right. So, let me tell you this. I've been studying economics for like 7 months, so I don't know everything. I'm starting to really get a profile understanding of some things. Okay, but I didn't major in it. But I'm working very hard to diligently learn. And videos like this, I have to write stuff down. So if there's something that I don't know or some misinformation that I may have sent, I did it by accident. I'm sorry. Do your research. Look at some of the other videos from guys that know what they're talking about. I look at Peter Schiff, Clear Value Tax, and Dr. Boyce. Okay. So I look at mainly those guys. Every now and then I look at Kramer or some of the mainstream, and I'll try to put the information together for the edification for myself. Okay. So we're going to talk about the First Republican Bank going out of business, had just folded, and this is the third bank that went down this year. Okay, behind Silicon Valley Bank and then Signature Banks. Okay, that these banks are having issues now. Again, that being that the interest rates were being raised and so forth, because hey, they got to pay their bills. But that's pretty much that's going to be like in every Fortune 500 company. So there's going to be more videos made on that or whatever. Okay, because based off that, this is the second worst in history, bank history. Okay, so bank this bank was taken over by J.P. Morgan with help with the FDIC. So what I think that happened, and I've heard these podcasters talking about it, is J.P. Morgan, they bought the bank, they assumed the deposits, and then a lot of the assets and so forth. They let a lot of the debt liabilities and so forth and penalties out for the First Republic Bank to take care of. Okay, they didn't want to assume that. Okay, so it looks like what happened was J.P. Morgan Bank bought it with the help with the FDIC. Like I say though, I said in the last video, this is all political from this point. Okay, and this is not really our fight. I don't even see why I'm even taking the time to do a video like this, to be honest with you. Okay, But I do know one thing, as I said this last video, this stuff plays on people's emotions, okay? And, I can give you the best advice on how to prepare and find other ways to diversify your saving and spending and also your investing and all that, okay? There's no guaranteed way, all right? But I can give you maybe what I think is the best way. I've lost money before. They got people actually that commit suicide. I used to look at those films and all that, or hear about it in elementary school about people jumping off the Empire State Building, all right, during the Great Depression, all right, people killing their whole families, all right, over losing everything. I just did a video not too long ago about Bed Bath & Beyond, the CEO, okay, committing suicide over stuff like this. So, it looks like the FDIC tried to save it, still couldn't do it. And again, J.P. Morgan had assumed First Republic Bank, so those banks are going to turn into J.P. Morgan pretty soon. With the bankers' money being protected of $250,000, okay, which the FDIC had raised from $100,000, okay. Many of that money was eaten up because of the economy and all that and the value of the dollar, okay. If you're a stockholder, a lot of stockholders end up being pretty much like wiped out. It's to my understanding, I wrote down 41%, but I saw an article here just right after I wrote this down. Like the stocks went up down to almost 50% for First Republic, okay, down to $1.88. All right. However, JP Morgan stock went up to $141 a share, up like $5. So that's something like they took like a 3%, gain on their stocks. Okay. This may not be the first bank. Washington Mutual, Bear Stearns, and there's another bank that is also Bank of Washington, Bear Stearns. It was another bank, I didn't write it down all the way, that are also liable. Okay, but podcasters were saying that when the banks were having trouble, then the FDIC, and this is probably government designed too, to where many of these banks were being bailed out, and this bank right here, and there's a couple other banks may have been left out, okay, left for high and dry. So this may something that may have been intentionally done just so J.P. Morgan could buy this bank, okay. This, which I hear, is the podcasters are saying this is a very prestigious bank. This is First Republican Bank, all right. A lot of the factors that led to the downfall are markdowns on generous loans, raised interest rates, complacency in bank practices, and bad bank practices. Okay, and it's really about debt as well. It's really all about the money, but it's about the debt. Okay, so First Republic has suffered about $100 billion in loss of deposits, but J.P. Morgan assumed $92 billion in deposits. Okay, so most of those people get to keep their money and so forth. All right, but it's going to be at the behest of the taxpayers. We'll get into that some other time. Also, J.P. Morgan is going to assume $170 billion in assets, marked down from $230 billion in assets. Okay. So there's a lot of people, probably investors and so forth, stockholders, are probably pissed. I wouldn't be surprised if you wouldn't see some of those people end up missing, to be honest with you. Okay. And again, I said that J.P. Morgan is not responsible for any type of debt penalties, dealing with those type of liabilities, okay, in pertaining to that. So that's what's going on. Don't be surprised if you don't see another bank or two being, going downhill and being probably scooped up by a larger bank and so forth. All right. While these other banks are getting bigger and bigger, okay, with some type of, I think, that government puppeting or control, okay. In closing, I wanted to say this, that people has been warning about stuff like this, and also the value of the dollar going downhill with the bank interest rates or whatever going up, okay, which will probably go up today. They have a meeting at the Fed Bank, okay, that people were warned to do stuff like pull your money out of the bank, invest in gold, silver, or probably your those ETF stocks that deal with that, commodities like oil and that type of stuff, Exxon, Oxy, okay, Shell, all right, because gas prices are also correlated with this, with inflation. If inflation goes up, the gas prices are going to go up. Gold is going to go up. Your commodities are going to go up, okay? Your tech stocks, consumer stocks are probably going to go down. So people have got to find a different way to save and invest, okay? To pull most of your money out of the banks, probably get gold, okay? And then ETF stocks that deal with gold and silver, or commodities like oil, something very valuable, okay? Because it's really not particularly like the gold and silver, but it's the money that fluctuates, okay? Everything is based off the gold and the silver prices, okay? All different currencies and so forth, all right? People were warned, and I think some people didn't take some of those precautions, and then now it's too late. So let me know what you think about the video, all right? And thank you for your time. Like, subscribe, share. And I have some other things to take care of. Cash App, $, Winston Spivey, if you want to donate.